Strap in and be prepared.
Maybe I'll learn from your failures.
That is what you could do.
Yeah.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, George Reiser, Ryan Lee, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I think Dan Lanning sitting in his office going, you know what, fine, give us the toughest road to win the national championship. That's what it should be.
Oregon State in their baseball program is still operating from a position of strength, even if they're independent. But here they are in the College World Series.
And some smiles.
It's iconic.
We're not keeping score, but maybe we're keeping score.
The fastest 60 minutes in sports is on the air. It's Danny Havel.
When I wake up every morning, I say to myself, what can I do to make Baby J's life better today?
Justin Grossweiner.
Have I ever told you, Danny, that growing up I really loved ducks?
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome live from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport. This is the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk. Welcome to all our friends on the coast at KNCU 92.7 FM, of course, right here in beautiful Eugene, Oregon, 102.9, 1050 AM. High atop the Delta Tri in the Crystal Palace. This is the Danny and Justin radio program. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin, spell out the and also on all the pods. iHeart, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, you name it, we're there. I'm Danny Havel. Right over there is my tag team partner, Justin Grossweiner. We call him Baby J. What a boy!
Well, I got my steps in today, which is awesome, because it's the first time I've walked to work since, last year.
You walked to work?
Correct. Yeah. It's like 3/4 of a mile. It's not that bad.
So did you see how many actual steps it was from doorstep to doorstep?
No, I did not. I was actually on the phone that entire way. Multiple phone calls. But it was good to get my steps in. Something I'm trying to do more. Beautiful day out today. Not too hot, I would say.
Not yet.
Quite too hot.
It's gotten toasty since then because I'm
sure
trying to get up on the roof of my shed to finish my shed off because we were like 20 shingles short. Say that 5 times fast.
No, thank you.
And so, but I've been inundated with work calls that start at like 7 a.m. and they stretch until 11:30. And by that time, it's too warm. And then I'm trying to make sure I'm getting ready for this little circus that we do here every day. The fastest 60 minutes.
Right.
We do more in an hour than someone else does in 3.
Correct. So I didn't tell you that this weekend I did my first game of basketball since I had my calf strain.
All right.
So I made it through.
Okay.
The only thing was it was really hot out that day, and one thing you can't be when you get older is in denial, right? Because I'm losing my hair, so I got to basically make sure I get a little bit of sunscreen on the top of my head, because otherwise I have what I have now, which is a big old red spot on the top of my head.
So you don't use sunscreen on there?
I forgot. It was just the first time I'd really been out in the summer. And so it was good to get out there, but I'm paying for the effects of it a little bit.
So I normally don't wear a hat anymore when I play golf, but the last few times I have because I don't have I don't know if I'm losing my hair at the top of my head. I don't think I am.
You're doing better than me.
Okay, well, I mean, I have a full
As
head of
someone
hair,
that
but I'm not
obsessively looks at
touching.
hairlines. You're doing better than I am.
But I've been using like even the sunscreen on, but I've actually been wearing a hat the last couple of times.
It's important. You got to protect your scalp.
Protect the noggin.
Even people that have hair, you got to protect it.
So when you're walking, are you one of those walkers that will not pay attention to what's going on with them, just paying attention to their phone? Okay,
it's
because
50-50.
All right,
it's 50-50. Sometimes I'm like kind of bored, and so I'll pay attention to my phone. But I do pay attention to what's going on around me.
Good.
If I'm crossing a street, I'm not going to sit there
Please.
and look on my phone while I'm
the ones
crossing
that
the street.
kind of slow walk it through an interception when you know
No,
they can move
no.
a little bit faster. No, I'm not saying that's you, but the one you know who I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Though.
I'm an A+
Pedestrian.
Pedestrian. That's there you go. Yeah. I'm an A+ pedestrian. I'm very much. I need to get across for you. You're the car.
Yep.
I'm not going to try to take up too much of your
bigger
time.
than me. Don't be mad at me.
Exactly. I'm always very thankful if they let me go first. I had this happen on my walk. Actually, a lady was really nice to me, and I was like, "Thank you so much."
So I want to make one comment that and by the way, again, thanks for listening wherever you're at, and I know we got people online listening. We got some P1s down in Arizona. Coach Mark, hey, what's up, boy?
In Eugene, on the coast?
On the coast, everywhere. So the new Open that you put together for us, and we're going to have another one coming up. By the way, We finally will have our big announcement. We've been teasing this for like a month, but Thursday we will actually be out at Laurelwood for our first time.
Really excited for that.
We're very excited.
Especially now that I've gotten a few swings in.
Yeah, right. And Nick and the whole crew are going to be welcoming you and us with open arms on Thursday. So we'll do the show Thursday out there.
Beautiful.
And we'll have our guests out there. But what my point was saying with the new Open, and that little line that you pulled out was that every morning I wake up and I, think, how can I make your day better? My wife has taken exception to that.
Oh.
In a big way.
She didn't like that?
She turned over at me, and it just came randomly last night. We're sitting watching The Bear, season 4 of The Bear, and she looks over and she says, and by the way,
oh no.
You always love it when your significant other starts with the two phrases.
What reminded her?
I don't know what triggered it.
Something about the Bear, Chicago.
I don't know what
I
I have no idea what triggered it. The two things you don't want to hear from your significant other is.
Do I need to change that? Because I saw your smile when that line happened, and I think it's the best line of the entire thing.
It is. It's one of the best lines. We've got plenty more when we'll drop in. But my point getting to is that the two things you don't want to hear your significant other or spouse say are, I was thinking. And, oh, by the way, those are the two things that it's just like...
You immediately went into apology mode.
I immediately go into, I want to protect all of my vital organs mode. So, no, she says, that line should be, you should be thinking about your wife and how you can make her happy every single day.
Oh, man. Which is funny because that's exactly where that conversation came from.
I know. When I get to that point...
You tried to explain it.
No, I didn't try it. I just shook my head. I said, you know what, honey? You're absolutely
right. That's the right
response.
You're right.
Yeah, that's 20 years of marriage coming up.
I'd do that, too, to be fair.
So, but I do. I just try and make people happy that are around me. And talking about happy, the Pac-12 is happy, as we announced yesterday, and that was approved by the Texas Board of Regents. Texas State, the Bobcats, will join the Pac-12 as the 8th football member in 2026. So now they're eligible FBS. We're going to talk to the play-by-play voice, Clint Shields, down there deep in the heart of Texas in San Marcos, who's been working with Texas State since 2019. He is the play-by-play voice, started out as the women's play-by-play voice, and was the analyst for Texas State football as a long time calling games in the state of Texas, high school football, basketball, and baseball. He was the announcer for 9 years in Dripping Springs, Texas, and our good buddy Austin Novosad will know that because that's where Austin came from, the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. So we'll talk to...
I've heard of him.
Clint Shields today on the program, right around 2:20, right around 12 minutes from now. We've got our news and notes. We want to talk about Dame.
Oh, you know what? I can't believe this.
Okay.
You know the starting quarterback? I can't believe I didn't realize this until just now. You know who the starting quarterback is for Texas State?
I don't know.
You'll recognize the name.
Okay, well.
Giovanni McCoy.
That's where he ended up again?
Yes. I can't believe I just realized this. 100%.
Well, we've got something. So this interview is going to go a lot longer than we thought it was going to go. And wow, so Giovanni could make his way back. How much eligibility does he have left, though? I thought he was a junior when he went to
a redshirt senior.
Yeah, so he will not make it back to Corvallis because they don't play each other this year. So that'll be because they got to wait until 2026 before they're even on the schedule. The nice thing about the
nope, actually, I'm wrong. Sorry. He transferred he was at Texas State for a little bit. It says it's on the depth chart it was here, but he actually went from Texas State to Temple. So he transferred
because he
multiple
transferred
times.
twice when he left Oregon State.
Okay, so I'm putting together in real time.
Okay,
there
so he's in Temple.
We can still ask about it.
For the 2 seconds he was there.
What was it like when Giovanni McCoy was there?
And he'll go, who?
Yeah, right.
So the thing I like about the Pac-12, and I talked to many more Beaver, and if we have time, folks, you can call us up if you're a Beaver fan to talk about Texas State if you want, the state of the Pac-12 at the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673. That's 541-343, say it together, kids, 5673. If you want to weigh in on Texas State, and maybe you want to listen to Clint first and then call us in the last part of the program, we'll kind of bounce around a little bit in the last part of the program. We'll talk a little bit about Dame. Lillard being cut by Milwaukee.
What a turn of events for Damian Lillard.
Well, it's business because
100%.
Who knows if he's going to be able to
play
next year?
Well, he won't.
Well, I'm just saying,
He shouldn't.
He probably should not. He actually, the reports are, and we'll get into it deeper later on in the show, is that he isn't that upset about it. He still has a home. He lives in Portland.
Correct.
So now he's
just
just says
be rehabbing there.
He can just rehab. Teams have already reached out to him. They're interested. Giannis apparently wasn't happy about it, but Giannis is an old school guy who's only played for one team,
which I like,
in his entire career in the NBA. But it is a business nonetheless. Same thing that happened with DeAndre Ayton. The Blazers saved $10 million off the cap with him, even though they're going to pay him $25 million to play somewhere else, which I still don't get in any sense of where business acumen comes in. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
We should wait on it, but I think there's an interesting conversation about athletes being loyal to teams where teams clearly will not show the same reciprocation in terms of loyalty to their players. So we'll get into that a little bit.
And the Blazers actually had a knock on that for a while, is that they were loyal and almost sometimes too loyal to their players.
Well, and Dame was almost criticized for being, you don't want to actually face any challenges because you just want to be loyal to the Blazers.
All right, Mark Moskowski, by the way, announced, just changing gears here real quick, Matt Florer is officially now the Oregon new pitching coach. We announced this yesterday. It was not confirmed yet, but now the official statement coming from the University of Oregon. Florer comes to Oregon after the last 7 seasons as the pitching coach and recruiting coordinator at San Diego. And before that, he was at Loyola Marymount. He was the assistant head coach as well there at San Diego. And a lot of All-Americans and a really good pitching coach, we think, and we see as he replaces Blake Hawksworth, who went on to Oklahoma State. So let's do some news and notes. I'll start out with, we don't want to talk about him too much more, but
we'll keep it brief.
We will keep it brief here because Jake Paul, he wants to be a world champion. I'm not a faker. I'm not a poser. Well, now you're ranked, Jake Paul. You're 12-1 with 7 KOs. The World Boxing Association, the WBA, has him at number 14 following his win over former middleweight champ Julio Cesar Chavez the Jr. So we'll see if Paul wants to take on a real person. Maybe he wants to take on Craig Parker.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they're not real people.
No,
you're talking
I'm in
about
complete
Mike Tyson,
agreement with you.
25 years since he fought.
I 100% agree.
Okay, how about Craig Parker?
I think it's fair to say he hasn't fought a single fighter where it's a fair fight.
Craig Parker, who's 20-0 with 20 KOs, is ranked 1 spot behind Jake Paul. Let's match them up first. How about that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Chicago Sky. They're partnering with the firm Moonshot to combat online harassment. This is with a technology company that helped the FBI track an alleged stalker of Caitlin Clark. And that case of Clark was after one month after a 40-year-old man pled guilty to stalking Paige Beckers as well. So it's a bit of a problem in the WNBA. And so the Sky are becoming the first WNBA team to partner with Moonshot, which is funded by national security professionals. And they're basically trying to end online abuse and violence. So I think it's great.
Let's stay in the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham has some thoughts on the expansion plans. And there's one city not too pleased with her thoughts. Of course, we talked about it yesterday. WNBA says Cleveland is going to gain a franchise in 2028, Detroit 2029, Philadelphia 2030. They add into what Golden State did this year with the Valkyries, who debuted, the Toronto Tempo, and Portland, yet to be named, but we think it's going to be the Fire, begin in 2026. Well, Cunningham was asked about the league's growth, and her quote was, "I don't know how excited people are going to be to go to Detroit or Cleveland."
Well, how excited are they to go to Indiana? That's my question.
The official city account for the city of Detroit had a rebuttal. The last time we were home to a WNBA team, we were ranked in the top 5 in attendance for 5 straight seasons. Number 1 in attendance for 3 straight seasons. You know where it's going.
Bring in the facts.
They just basically spit some facts at Ms. Cunningham and shouting that down.
She can stick to protecting Caitlin Clark.
Shows because they do not throw rocks in glass houses.
Halal, I should say. They beat Manchester City in the Club World Cup. It's an incredible stunner. And they beat them 4-3 in extra time in Orlando, and that was on Monday. And they set up a club quarterfinal against Fluminense. So it was Marcus Leonardo who scored a second goal of the night on the 112th minute. So this was an extra time. My favorite, Erling Haaland, who I still think you need to get into, scored in the 55th minute. But he was knotted at 2 through full time. And in extra time, it was Kulalabi who had a header, and then Phil Foden had a strike to tie it at 3. But then there was that Marcus Leonardo goal that it just stuns. I think it's a stunning loss, honestly. Al Hilal is a Saudi Arabian club. I mean, simply they've added a lot of talent, obviously, over the last few years. They're a growing league, but this is Manchester City. I mean, this is stunning.
Yeah, and Pep's gone at Man City. You and I were talking about this right before, and I think this is it for Pep.
It makes sense. It's time.
Yeah. So my final story, it's being called the worst scandal in the history of World Series poker. It was the $1,500 Millionaire Maker event, racked with controversy, as the top 2 players were alleged to engage in a chip dumping scheme because they were in the final table heads up in order to secure an additional $1 million in prize money. Jesse Yaganuma and James Carroll met at the final table. The winners posed to make $1.26 million, the runner-up $1 million. But Yaganuma was taking part in a third-party promotion that would pay him an additional $1 million if he won any qualifying World Series poker event, which the Million Maker was. So what got people suspicious is that the play by Carroll, Yaganuma was raising, re-raising, and Carroll folded a lot of hands, including one hand in question where Carroll folded the top pair on the flop, which stoked rumors the pair might have worked out a backdoor arrangement. There's no proof yet. However, the World Series of Poker is saying to uphold the integrity of the game, no winner's going to be recognized for that event, number 53, and no bracelet going to be awarded.
Wow.
That's unprecedented.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's big. This is a great story. I love this. We're talking about Darren Waller in the year 2025. And not only that, the Giants are getting draft compensation for him. They're getting a 6th-round pick from the Dolphins, who will also trade a conditional 7th-round pick, that's per Adam Schefter, to the Giants from the Dolphins. So they'll get the 32-year-old Waller, who was one of the best tight ends in 2019 and 2020, by the way, where he had over almost 200 receptions and over 2,000 receiving yards over a couple years. They ended up rewarding him with a 3-year, $51 million extension in 2022, but traded him the following year. He went viral, by the way, a couple weeks ago for admitting that he made up his mind during the 2020 season. I think 2023 season. It was like during the 4th game, during a series of plays where he was being used as a fullback, as a blocker. 3 successful plays. He said that it wasn't because the plays weren't working, but he's decided during that time that he just had enough. No more blocking for Darren Waller, even if it was working. And so he was going to retire after the season. But I guess he has an itch to play the game again, Danny, because he wants to play again. Not a guy that I think I'd want on my team if he's not willing to stick his foot in the dirt and put down a block for your guy and just be a part of the team.
I had Darren Waller on one of my fantasy teams years ago in his prime, and he was muddy.
And he was a baller.
He was a baller.
Bit of a weirdo.
Hearing that, a little eccentric.
You should look up this clip because it was hilarious.
I'm going to.
I mean, it's basically like a guy that doesn't care.
And everybody else will as well. Thank you very much. From the Bigfoot Beverages studio in Eugene and Newport, this is the Danny and Justin radio program. Coming up next, we will have the play-by-play voice of Texas State. One more year in the Sun Belt, and they joined the big boys of the Pac-12, along with all of the states, including Gonzaga State. They have no idea we just renamed their university. It's Clint Shields from Texas State University, the Bobcats, next on the Danny and Justin radio show. We'll have a little Damian Lillard discussion in the last half of the program and open up the phones for all you Oregon State fans or anybody else who wants to comment on the newest edition that gets the Pac-12 eligible for the FBS and the playoff. And we are very happy to welcome in for his first visit here on the Danny and Justin program, and hopefully one of many. It is the play-by-play voice of Texas State football and the Bobcats. It's Clint Shields joining us on the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673. Clint, when you first of all, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Good to be with you guys always. Thanks for having me.
So when you first started hearing the inklings, because this has been kind of a tap dance that's been going on for over a year now with a lot of different names being thrown out, did you really, really, really deep down think that Texas State was going to be the one that ended up coming all the way to the top and getting the offer from the Pac-12?
Honestly, yes. I don't know that I thought it'd be the only one. You mentioned other names. Tulane was in that conversation. Memphis was in that conversation. And I don't know that, who am I to say that they're not still? But, yeah, I had a pretty high degree of confidence that Texas State would be involved in that final conversation, whether they were by themselves, which as of today, that's what it is, or whether it was a package deal with some others. I felt like ultimately they would be.
You can follow Clint on C Shields Radio on the old Twitter. Clint Shields joins us. He's been with Texas State since 2019, started out as the women's basketball play-by-play voice, and now has moved into the big chair last couple of years at Texas State football. And, of course, football is king in Texas. So, Clint, for those who might not know where Texas State is, we do, and what the history of the Bobcats as well. What's the Pac-12 in for here in this fan base and this school? Because you guys aren't a small fish. You got like almost 40,000 kids going to school there.
Yeah, 40,000 plus. The 24th largest in the U.S. I think, based on whomever's list you want to look at. You kind of look at the growth of the region of this part of Texas, this central Texas kind of eastern fringe of the Texas Hill Country in between Austin and San Antonio, up and down the Interstate 35 corridor. Throw in Houston, almost 3 hours to the east, and that triangle. There's a whole lot of folks who live there, and that's continued to grow. 40,000 plus in enrollment. That's an increase from 22,000 back in the year 2000. So you see how much it's grown in terms of the enrollment of the university, and they've really done a great job, I feel like, especially in the last 15 years, to embrace that growth, but also enhance the on-campus college experience. I think for a long, long time, Texas State, prior to that, Southwest Texas State, was a bit of a commuter school. They've really tried to I think, embrace that student increase and turn it into a more traditional on-campus college experience, on-campus college life, and they've really done a fantastic job of that. To the football side, obviously it's a passionate fan base. You don't have too much football in Texas without passionate fan bases, no matter where you go. Getting ready to play its 119th season, I think it is, of college football for Texas State. Only their 13th as an FBS program. It's a program with a lot of history, a lot of tradition, almost 120 years. There's a couple of national championships in there in Division II. Back in 81, 82, they struggled to, I think, get back up to the level of success and maintain it in the 40 years since. But here under G.J. Kinney in the last 2 seasons, going on 3 now, it's really brought an infusion of excitement and passion back into this fan base.
And from what I understand, you have about 25 years of experience calling high school football, among other sports in Texas. And I'd love for you to just kind of quantify for people that just don't know, because, of course, when you think of Texas, one of the things you think of is high school football in Texas. But I think it's also a huge thing in college as well. So can you kind of just speak to what it is like being there and how important football is both at that high school level and at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I grew up, playing high school sports, coming from a small town myself out in the West Texas Panhandle region. You played everything, and Friday nights high school football was certainly next to religion out there. The old colloquial phrase of last person out of town, turn off the lights. Yeah, that was true on road games. The train of cars behind school buses, going to visiting stadiums, that's a real thing. Translate that into the college game, and it's been such a passionate thing for fans of programs around the state. You got to remember, in the days of the Southwest Conference, date myself a little bit here. When I was going to Texas Tech, Southwest Conference was still a thing, and you had 8 schools in the state. Arkansas being the 9th, the only school out of state in the Southwest Conference. So, despite distance, every game was drivable in the Southwest Conference days, and so it was a lot more common to have, I think, large opposing fan contingents travel, not just in areas where alumni lived, but making a trip from Lubbock to Waco. You had a large fan base, turnouts for the road team. Bands went everywhere. It was more common to see a visiting band in the stadium, I think, than you see now in 2025. So that's kind of the roots of college football in this state. Obviously, it's changed so much with conference realignment now, and Texas and A&M now, kind of back together in the SEC. TCU and Houston have come back around and gotten into the Big 12. SMU's off to the ACC. So it's obviously a much different picture than it was 30 years ago. but the passion for college football, the passion of the fans in the state certainly hasn't changed.
He's a graduate of Texas Tech back in 1996, started his radio career at KCAM in Lubbock, Texas. It's Clint Shields joining us on the Danny and Justin radio program talking the Pac-12 and the newest member, Texas State. They got to wait one more year, so they'll roll it out in the Sun Belt Conference one more year, and then they join the Pac-12 in 2026. It's been quite a journey, and you've been a part of that, Clint, with coming, now this is before your time, but starting as an independent, and then the TIAA, Lone Star, Gulf Star, Southland Conference, independent again, then the WAC, and now in the Sun Belt. So does it feel like Texas State, and I know it's really early and you're still getting settled, but does it kind of feel like Texas State now is finding a home and should find a home in the Pac-12 and can have a long relationship and stay home with somebody?
I would say, talking about this pretty similar thing just a few minutes ago with another associate, and I said under Kelly Danforth, university president, and Don Coryell, the athletic director, under their leadership, they're not guys who are going to, I think, step off into a big opportunity like this. Obviously, there's some unknown, but into a big opportunity if they did not have the confidence to do it. So, yeah, I think the leadership at the top feels like this is a place that Texas State can kind of get in here on the ground floor in the relaunch of the Pac-12 and, step up in competition. I think they're certainly anticipating that. And, one of the phrases they used yesterday was a blank slate being created here with the changing landscape of college athletics. And again, they got a chance to set themselves up for long-term success and really promote the Texas State brand on the ground floor of the Pac-12 here.
What's been the reaction or from your perspective and the people that you've talked to, because obviously you have a lot of contacts within the Sun Belt Conference where the Bobcats have resided for the last several years. What's been the reaction of the Sun Belt Conference and your compatriots there that the Texas State Bobcats are moving to the Pac-12?
It's funny. Internet fan bases, they love to snipe at one another no matter what. So they've come after Texas State, obviously, with much vitriol on the internet. The university presidents and the conference itself, obviously, they say the right things and wishing Texas State luck. Our fellow radio heads around the conference were a very tight group, and there's been plenty of chatter going back and forth. They hate to see us go, but they understand the opportunity that it presents to the university. We'll all continue to stay in touch, probably at the same rate that we do right now. So they'll be interested to kind of see how it all plays out. So I think as a fan base, as a university, Texas State's kind of seeing it all right now. They go into that final season coming up in the Sun Belt, as you mentioned. As the two-time reigning winner of the Big Bubas Cup, which is awarded annually to the top athletic program-wide in the Sun Belt. They certainly have a target on their backs going into this final go-round in the Sun Belt.
Clint Shields, he's a play-by-play for Texas State Radio, here with us on the Danny and Justin radio program. I'm just curious about this 2025 football team. He's being led by G.J. Kinney, who had a cup of coffee in the NFL. He's a younger coach, 36 years old, just signed a 7-year contract, from what I understand, to lead this program. How much confidence is there from what he's done to bring this program to new heights, what they've done the last couple of years, winning a bowl game the last 2 years, to now you're in the Pac-12? So how much confidence is there in Kinney to lead this program going forward?
I think there's plenty of confidence. And to use your word curious, I think we all are. It's the third straight year, I think, that we find ourselves in that position. And that's just sort of the changing nature of college athletics, I think, with the transfer portal. You've got, guys in the Sun Belt, the Group of Five level, if you will, who move on to, other Division I opportunities. And so many, Group of Five rosters are rebuilt year in and year out. Like I said, that's just kind of the nature of college football where we are right now. But if 2 years of history, tells us anything about G.J. Kinney and his staff, they can and will recruit some dudes who can play football. They've had tremendous success in analyzing talents, and a little bit of luck probably thrown in as far as the chemistry, the teamwork aspect of it. When you bring in a whole bunch of new guys like that in these 2 years to put up back-to-back 8-win seasons, go to bowl games, the first 2 in school history, win them both. You got to remember Texas State over the previous 7 seasons before Coach Kenny's arrival had 20 wins in 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
They got 16 over the last 2 seasons. So confidence is there, certainly. G.J. Kenny's a confident man, confident in his ability. He said it at his introductory press conference. He always felt like if the right guy got the job in San Marcos, look out. We felt like it was a hidden gem, and he felt like he was the right guy to get that job. And on that note, real quickly, I hear this a lot. A lot of people say San Marcos. It's Marcus, like with a U.
Okay.
Even though it's an O, San Marcos.
We're going to get it right then.
Absolutely.
I was guilty of it at first as well, and got called in on the carpet to say, "Hey, San Marcos."
Well, just like so, I can give you a hint as well. Then make sure you're saying Oregon instead of Oregon, because Oregon, yeah, just like with a gun, just like the 6-shooter, and you're going to be just fine out here. So we're with Clint Shields. He is in his second, I think it's the second season, or are you coming into your third now as the play-by-play voice for Texas State, Clint? Is this?
Oh man, let me think back here. Count on my fingers, 6th actually.
Oh, as play-by-play voice? All right.
As play-by-play, yeah. 2019 was my first season in the football booth alongside Bill Culhane, who did play-by-play, and I was his analyst, and then slid over for the 20 season.
Nice, very nice. So the travel is going to be a lot different for everyone and all sports, not just football, basketball, baseball. It'll be for volleyball and all the other Olympic sports as well that surround this. So do you think that will be an adjustment, or is there any concern about before you're pretty tight-knit in terms of you're only going through one time zone. You got to jump a couple of time zones now to play pretty much the balance of this conference.
It's certainly different. Adjustment, yeah, that's a good word. It's a foreseeable problem. Once again, I was fortunate enough to sit down. We had to travel on Thanksgiving Day last year for a football game, and we sat down to dinner that night and had a chance to sit down and sit next to Kelly Danforth's University president. We talked at length about the rumors back then, and the adjustment that would have to be made for travel, not just football, but talking about, some of the other Olympic sports, if you will, basketball, volleyball, et cetera, and you might have to bring, chartered flights into it to get back after you play a game, because you're probably not going to be out in, say, the case of basketball right now in the Sun Belt. You're out for 2 games, 5, 6 days at a time. That's likely not going to be the same when you go west into the Pac-12 here. So there's going to have to be some adjustment, certainly, but I do think that's been factored in and looked at length. So in the end, it was, an acceptable problem to try and solve when you start talking about an invite to the conference and where you might go with it.
So speaking a little bit about history, and again, we're going to be educating the fan base, and hopefully we'll have you back several more times, especially as we get closer to the football season and during the football season. Jim Wacker, it's a name that I think people know, but then they just can't kind of place it, but very well steeped in Texas State history, not just as the football coach and the field's named after him, but also athletic director, and probably and arguably one of the more successful coaches in the history of Texas State football. So speak about how important Jim Wacker and his legacy is to the fan base.
Well, certainly so. When you think of the name Jim Wacker in San Marcos, obviously you go back to back-to-back national championship seasons in 81 and 82 before he left and took the job at TCU, but then was fortunate enough to have him back to Texas State as the athletic director. The field's named in his honor, Jim Wacker Field at UFCU Stadium, there in San Marcos. So you're never far away from remembering his fingerprints on this football program and the glory days that they had back in those 1980s. And I really think, especially for the alumni, that's something that they're hoping they can get back to, competing at the highest level within the conference championships. And now they've had a taste of the postseason with a couple of bowl games. And it always works its way back to those days and those Bobcat teams under Jim Wacker. He's certainly a name that I think is held in reverence around San Marcos.
And this is certainly a program that's on the rise. And as we look ahead, obviously so much can change in a year, but as they do enter the Pac-12 in 2026, just how competitive do you think this Texas State team is going to be when they enter? Because as I mentioned, program on the rise. It seems like there's a lot of momentum going forward, new conference. So just where do you think they're going to be as they enter the conference?
I think that they'll continue to be competitive again in this changing nature of college athletics. Year in and year out, it's hard to say sometimes, but I think this was another good point touched on yesterday in some of the media calls when the announcement was made. This is also an opportunity to, I think, develop talent within your program. If we're talking, football strictly, but really and truly across the board, I think, athletically. If you're trying to develop talent within your program, rather than having it poached quite so much by, Power 4, Autonomous 4, whatever you'd like to call them, programs, this is an opportunity, I think, to do that. Based on the competition within the conference, a chance to be showcased maybe a little bit more as a student athlete, you might start to keep some of those athletes at home, so to speak, rather than finding the transfer portal, looking for greener pastures, which aren't always there, as we know. But I do think that that's something that they're hoping is they can capitalize on in terms of developing talent, but also keeping it.
It's Clint Shields joining us on the Oregon Man Clinics hotline, the Danny and Justin radio program here it's already Tuesday here on the West Coast and wherever you are at. And Clint's down there in San Marcos, Texas, joining us as we talk a little Texas State athletics as they join the Pac-12 next year. By the way, is there going to be any more recruiting out of the Sun Belt? I mean, are there going to be any more participants who want to jump up and join in the pool in the Pac-12, you think?
I can't speak for them. They can all say they don't, but I can't say that they really mean that, under the surface. So I guess time will tell.
I love that pause there, Clint. That was awesome.
Yeah, I had to think of a good way to put that. And I think about this yesterday, and I was going to jump in on a teams meeting of the athletic staff and ask Kelly or Dawn, president or athletic director, but they were kind of short on time. I didn't want to jump in. You're talking at the moment about 8 football playing schools, which means 7 conference games starting in the 26th season. Well, right now, that non-conference schedule is set with 4 non-conference games and 8 conference games in the Sun Belt. Well, now you've lost one by going to the Pac-12 here. One of two things is going to happen. And Pac-12's got another little surprise up its sleeve in inviting another football playing school, or you're going to have to find another non-conference opponent. Yeah, and that's not always easy. It's easier said than done to do that in less than 12 months. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that schedule plays out.
That's a great point. And so, and the overall, and we're going to let you go here because I know you're a busy guy. You got to make money. You got honeydews to do still. I think unless you got them all done yesterday when we were going back and forth. Did you get them all done? No.
No.
All right. So the Gang of 4, the way the college football playoff is laid out and everything else, and now you're in the deep end of the pool now with the Pac-12 coming up in 2026 and really have a better opportunity or a leg up for this program to get some national exposure. So can you talk about what it's like in Texas and what it's been like in the Sun Belt, talking about kind of being the underdog and punching up in this whole college football playoff revision?
Well, in the Sun Belt, Texas State's, kind of been the western frontier, the westernmost school, the only school in Texas. Now you flip that around, and they're the eastern frontier, the easternmost school, the only school in Texas once again. As you pointed out, we got to go a little bit further now to even get to our closest opponents, which might be Fort Collins. I hadn't put a ruler to it just yet, but it might be having to go to Colorado State. It's been, a little bit of underdog mentality. And I think a lot of that's been associated with football and trying to get themselves back to a competitive level where the fan base wants it to be, where the coaching staff wants it to be. Is it there yet? Probably not, because they still haven't, reached that championship game appearance or championship game won. But again, as I mentioned, you're talking about a program that is in its 13th season, going into its 13th as an FBS school. 20 wins over the last 7 years. Coming into the last 2 seasons where they put together back-to-back 8-win years, a couple of bowl appearances, enrollment at the school, 40,000-plus freshman classes the last 3 years have been the largest in school history. That'll happen again, I think, when late summer rolls around and they welcome in freshmen. I mean, the buzz around not just San Marcos, but this whole Austin, San Antonio, corridor, Central Texas area, it's really it's really generated some buzz. Hey, we all live athletically around here in college athletics in the shadow of the University of Texas in Austin, right? That's just a fact. Same as for media coverage. And so, watching the 10 o'clock news at night when sports rolls around, a lot of times, I'll watch kind of with a sideways eye thinking, are they going to cover a Texas State story tonight or a score from a game? And there's more and more of that starting to appear in the local news, which says to me that they're starting to get noticed, and that brand is starting to generate the buzz that they're looking for. So it's an exciting time for the university in making that move. And I know they've got a lot of miles to cover still here through the next few months, target on their back and all that in this last season in the Sun Belt. But I think when 2026 rolls around, they'll be ready to go.
Well, I think it's the only major university in all of America that was ever featured fictitiously in a major motion picture. You knew I was going to bring this up at least once. I did my research. Texas State University was the university in the movie back in 1991, Necessary Roughness, with Scott Bakula. And it was because at that time, I got this right, don't I, Clint? At that time, when the movie was made in 1991, there was no Texas State University. Texas State University was called Southwest Texas State University. They didn't change their name to Texas State University until 2003.
That is correct. Yeah, they were Southwest Texas State back then, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually played Texas State in the movie. You had Texas State squaring off against Southwest Texas State in that movie.
And that was the Bobcats against the Armadillos.
Absolutely it was. I'm happy you went with Scott Bakula. I'd go with Kathy Ireland second, way before you ever get to mentioning, Sinbad being in that movie.
Larry Miller. Jason Bateman was in that movie. Oh, my good. Hey, by the way, one last thing before we let you go. Are there Bobcats in Texas? Maybe it's a stupid question.
Are there Bobcats? Oh, absolutely.
Okay. See, I thought so.
We had to ask because there's no Badgers in Wisconsin. So, got to make sure.
Yes, absolutely Bobcats in Texas. They can get to be pretty good size, and more often than not, when you're out in the brush country around here, you're being watched by one. They don't necessarily. They won't bother you if you won't bother them, but more often than not, one's looking at you.
All right, buddy. Well, this, again, our first visit with you. By the way, on our show, when you come on your third time, you get a nickname. So that's one. You got one in the books, two more, and you get your nickname on our program, okay?
Do we do something to earn it that we don't know about, or
you don't know about it?
Ask for advice on this?
No, I don't ask for advice. I do a little research on you, talk to family and friends, and then I come up with the nickname. So there you go.
Well, another reason to be excited about the
Absolutely.
Clint, buddy, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful talking to you, and best of luck, and welcome to the Pac-12.
Thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you guys again.
All right, there he goes. The great Clint Shields, the play-by-play voice of Texas State University. The Bobcats. There are Bobcats in Texas.
That's good. It's good to know.
Yeah.
I figured there were, but you never know.
What's next for Damian Lillard? And your phone calls, we can squeeze a couple in at 541-343-5673 if you want to talk a little Pac-12. Danny and Justin, Fox Sports Eugene and Newport. Fox Sports Eugene and Newport, 92.7 FM, KNCU. Let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673. We have a caller on the line. Welcome into the Danny and Justin radio program. Who's this?
Hey, thanks a lot. This is Coach Mark down in Phoenix.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I have two questions for you guys.
Sure.
One is about the Pac-12 and one is about something different. Regarding the something different, does this count as a first call towards a nickname, and can I get a third of the nickname up front?
First, no advances on nicknames. Great question, caller. That's first. We're going to have to go to the rules committee on whether or not a caller constitutes a guest.
We've had this conversation before.
More of an effort here.
Well, you are making an effort, and you also have the distinction of being the furthest away. No, actually, you don't, because Rooster in Cleveland's got you beat in terms of mileage there, buddy.
I'm doing my best here. I'll try moving here soon. To the Pac-12, though,
yeah.
Is there any disappointment, you think, amongst Oregon State / Washington State fans that this is a Texas State joining instead of a Boise State joining? I know that there's a lot of hopes that would happen, and I'm curious your thoughts about that, and I will listen on the air.
Thank you very much, Coach. I don't think there's any disappointment at all because the fact of the matter is you're getting a school in Texas, and especially for football and even baseball, you're opening up that state, and your teams are going to be down there performing right in the heart of Texas. So I think it's a great thing. I understand the whole Boise State. It's geographically would have made great sense, but really, how strong overall are all of the Boise State programs? Football has had the arc. Basketball, baseball, I don't know.
Right. I couldn't tell you.
So, but I think there is more upside to Texas as a state. And this is not as you start unpeeling this, I'm going to let you jump in. Mm-hmm. When you start unpeeling this, it seems like there's more and more benefit that I'm finding. And I was bullish on them to start.
Sure.
So I think there's more upside there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It seems like there's, again, this is what I kind of talked about. It seems like there's so many of these things that are positives are the off-the-field stuff. And they've sort of turned it around a little bit on the field. And I think after our conversation with Clint, maybe feel a little bit better about what they're going to do in the future and sort of their trajectory. But I don't know if Oregon State fans are, like, super excited. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's a solid move and a solid stepping stone, I think. It was a good place to go, but ultimately I don't think it was sort of the desired place.
I have a little pack of Oregon State fans that I hang out with, Coach Tony, Brandon, Cam, those guys. So I'm just not going to say I know guys. Sure. I'm going to give you names, all right? Mm-hmm. There's a part of the fan base with Oregon State that's kind of checked out.
100%.
And they need to get them back. Yeah. And maybe this is a way to get them excited again because they're just so disenfranchised from the whole blow-up of the Pac-12, the independent schedules. They hung their hats on baseball. They can't win a national championship. They're very hard to do. Come on, national championships are very hard to do. So I just think that they need to find their way back. I do believe they've got to get to 10 football schools before they start becoming relevant again. That's going to be a hard national narrative to push in an 8-team conference where you've got all the state schools except Gonzaga, who doesn't play football, Gonzaga State. We're going to do that. I'm going to print
G State or
G State.
Gonzaga State.
G State.
G State, I think.
Yeah,
works.
we just shorten it up.
Yeah.
But that's where I think it goes. I think Boise State would have been a great addition. It would have been fine. I wouldn't have any problem with it. I think it's a lateral between Boise and Texas, and I think Texas puts it a little bit higher because of the recruiting aspect.
I would probably lean toward agreeing with you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call, Coach Mark. And so we have to have a committee meeting on the whole nickname thing. I didn't think this was going to be a whole big thing, but it was.
It's turned out to be a thing.
So we want to talk more about Dame tomorrow because we only have like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you can summarize what you feel in 30 seconds.
Well, I think it's basically what I would say.
Dame going to play again?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I think he's going to play again. I think that what's interesting is, like, could there be, I think the first question is, could there be a Portland reunion? Probably not. He is going to rehab in Portland. I would assume that he would probably not sign with the team this season and just sort of play it out and see where he's at physically.
And this whole fantasy thing about the Portland fan base saying, Dame, come home, back home. Where would you put him? Where would you put him?
We'll see where he is in a year. You know, if he's going to be 36 years old, coming off an Achilles, maybe he's willing to take a backseat role and be an off-the-bench guy and really raise up what these young guys are doing.
Well, the Indiana did this because they wanted Miles Turner, and they got Miles Turner to help up Giannis, which is a huge move for them.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
You know, Baby J, I thought my neighbors were good people.
Oh, you thought?
Until they put a password on their Wi-Fi.
Oh, how dare they?
How dare you?
How dare they?
Okay. Tomorrow on the program, Travis Demers. I think he's got some thoughts on Damian Lillard. What do you think?
Yeah.
How good is that timing? Look at you, Mr. Co-host, producer, lining up guests.
How about that?
Wow, you got lucky.
A little bit.
And Thursday, we're at Laurelwood. Hallelujah. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks again to Clint Shields from Texas State for joining us on the program. Thanks to you for lending us your ears for the fastest 60 minutes. For Baby J, I'm Danny. God bless, be well. Put a smile on your face. Someone else, they deserve. So do you. Peace.